an amazing instrument. It has developed into an incredible voice in today's music. So many types of guitars, so many styles of playing, all sorts of gear. How does one make their voice be heard as a guitarist? My name is Jeff Floro, and welcome to All About Guitar, where we talk tone, we talk technique, we talk gear. Where we discover how we can become better musicians in a world of constantly changing technologies. Where we take a good look at everything guitar, and sometimes not exactly guitar, but just as important, so we can be more successful as a musician in today's music scene. So sit back and relax, and let's explore all about guitar. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to All About Guitar. This is a very special show for me. I am so honored to have Muriel Anderson on the show. She tours a lot. She's been around. I've tried to reach out and get her, but she's always been out of town, and we finally were able to coordinate it together. And it's just a real honor to have you here. Thank you so much for coming down.
Oh, I'm so glad we were able to work it out this time.
And I have one little story where I really learned a lot about what you were doing and playing. Is this was like 2005, 2006. We were working on a HDVD disc of you playing, and I did the Dolby encodes for the audio, and we did the video. Very cool. So that's how I first learned about it. It's on Blu-ray now, but that was back in the days. Maybe a lot of you don't remember HDVD, but it was around. So, but anyway, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. It's just awesome. And real quick before we start playing, we've got a lot of stuff to cover, but just give us a little background on how you came to play guitar and then end up playing such beautiful instruments like these harp guitars, which this is a very unusual one.
Well, I think that playing guitar just kind of came naturally. As soon as someone was throwing one away and I got it in my hands, started figuring out melodies right away. I was about 8 years old, and then just learned everywhere I could. And every time I was inspired by some music, then I'd want to learn to play it. And as a result, I ended up playing a lot of different types of music, and only certain tunes in each style. And started a bluegrass band. I did that for 6 years, and finger picking. And then the only way to study guitar in college was to study classical. And so I came to that late, but learned some just incredible techniques and phrasing that I was able to bring over to a lot of types of music. Including international music. I was doing international folk dancing, and just love those tunes.
This was all at DePaul?
DePaul University, yeah. And I played in the DePaul Jazz Band, too, Old Town Jazz Ensemble. And, then I had to decide, what I was going to do for a living, and everyone told me, well, you got to decide what kind of music you're going to play. Are you a classical guitar player? Are you a bluegrass guitar player? And finally, I decided, I just have to do the music that's in my heart. And there was no market for it, There's no market for a CD that has 5 different types of music on it, right? You didn't know what bin to put it in back when there were record stores,
Yeah.
And but gradually, people found out about it, and they liked it, and they liked that variety. And so I've just kind of kept on playing the music that I was inspired by, so that just brought me in many directions.
Well, I noticed in preparing for the show and listening to the clips that you had sent me, it's an interesting mix of different styles. I heard the classical. You can hear it definitely in her technique and the way she plays and tone, but also the folk thing is very strong. But there's blues, there's the bluegrass stuff is killer.
Yeah, great.
We'll play that clip in a little bit, but the integration of the styles, you kind of, and which I think is good, especially at this time, because I'm seeing with musicians, JP and Liza included, they're mixing styles again like we used to in the 60s. Back in the late 60s, that was that creative period where like they would try something. Well, let's use this instrument, or let's do this thing. And I think it's coming together again where people are experimenting. And I think that's because your music's refreshing, it's different, and it's because of all those it's how you put it together from all these different influences.
It's a singular voice that comes from all the things you've learned. You really synthesize a tremendous amount of beautiful influences. It's cool.
Well, thank you. I never meant to. I just play my favorite music, and that's all. And that just happened to be all these different types.
Yeah, no, that's great. Do you want to ask that question right now, and then I'll play a clip?
Yes, for all the guitar people out there, can ask on their behalf is, can you talk a little bit about the differences between, say, taking lessons from Chet Atkins and taking lessons from Christopher Parkening, because I know you did both.
Yes, and they were very different experiences.
I would imagine.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. And it was when I heard the music of Christopher Parkening just before entering college, I fell in love with the sound of the classical guitar. And before that, I was just, bluegrass and folk and jazz. So he was a great inspiration, and then went on to master classes. And he was just a wonderful teacher, just to give some of the nuances of, and how to bring out the musicality of the music. With Chet Atkins, it was very informal, and I was taking mandolin lessons from Jethro Burns in Evanston, Illinois.
Oh, wow.
And I played this tune for Jethro, Nola. It's the one that goes. That one. And yeah, Jethro heard me. I played it on guitar, and he said, "Oh, well, you got to meet my brother-in-law, Chet Atkins." And so it turns out Jethro and Chet married identical twin sisters, and so I was introduced through the family, and so I met with Chet. It was actually he was playing at Orchestra Hall in Chicago, and I got him on the phone, and I said, "So sorry, I can't come to your concert. I've got this gig, and I couldn't get a sub." And he said, "Well, what time's your gig over?" And he said, "Well, my gig's over about the same time. Why don't you just, come on by the lobby of the hotel?" And so he just was always that way. He considered my gig equal to his gig, right, at Orchestra Hall. He didn't he didn't have priorities. He had friends that ranged from former presidents to the guy that sold T-shirts out of the back of his truck, and he didn't really differentiate. He was always like that. So when I met him, it was just like meeting my uncle. He played some tunes, I played some tunes, and I said to him, "Wow, I've never heard anything that great. It's just amazing." And he said, "Well, I'll teach you some songs you can play at your hotel gig." And I wasn't playing concerts yet. I was playing in a hotel lobby, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't think much of it, but a few weeks later, I got a tape in the mail of all tunes that he'd recorded in his basement, especially for me. Learned to play, and I think they were later released as the basement recordings.
That's amazing.
So, and I learned those, and I'd send him a tape back, and I'd send him a tape with some tunes I'd written. So we sent tapes back and forth until finally I came down to Nashville and just hung around the office long enough for him to say, "Okay, Muriel, here, learn this tune."
That's great.
So there was never a formal time set up. It was just very casual.
That's fantastic.
That's wonderful.
Well-
What a great way to learn, though.
Yeah, he was an inspiration, more in the way he approached music and approached arranging, and the respect he had for other players. And I really gained a lot of things, not just the tunes, but I took home a lot of things from the time I spent with Chad.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Well, I'm going to play a clip real quick, but first I better introduce everybody who's here. I just got right into it and I forgot. JP, my good friend JP Durand, and Liza Carbe from Incendio and Carbe Durand are here.
Hello.
And Brittany from Povich, if I'm saying that right, another bass player. And let me have your name again. Brian Allen.
Brian Allen, who's going to figure very prominently very shortly in Muriel's story with a program that we're going to tell you a little bit about that she's touring with and promoting right now.
So let me play this clip. This is from your album Night Lights. It's the title track, and I did an edit to show some of these parts. And I think it's all done on the. It sounded to me like two guitars, but you said it's just one, right? You playing by yourself.
If it's the one from the Eclipse CD, that's a solo harp guitar.
Okay, it said in the metadata that well I'll play it. You tell me.
There's two recordings. There's one with a full band, and one with solo harp guitar. So it depends on which one you took.
Okay,
Yeah.
You have a headset there. I'm going to play this clip, and then we'll talk a little more, and then I want to talk about this amazing instrument. This thing is really, really, really good. So this is Night Lights, and here it is. Now, what got me was that you're playing these lines, these legato lines on the regular classical. You have the bass strings, and then you're doing all those little harmonic things on with the drone strings.
Yes, I've got, this is a 20-string harp guitar, and yes, that was solo.
That's one guitar.
yeah.
That blows me away.
Yeah, and in fact, that was one I was going to do live here in the studio for you, except I'm in a different tuning right now.
Okay.
Because the super trebles here, they're steel strings, are just tuned in a scale.
Mhm.
So I'm obviously tuned in a different scale at the moment. And then the middle section is regular guitar tuning, but this one is tuned up a whole step on with this particular instrument. And then the sub basses also go down the scale. And so those, I can change the tuning occasionally.
Yeah, I notice you have levers. I've never seen
Yes.
it on. I've had Don Alder on with his harp guitar, but it didn't have the levers.
Well, this is the first harp guitar with the over-the-top half-step tuning levers, I believe.
Half-step levers?
Yes, and I asked the builder, Mike Doolan, if he could make it, give me half-step tuners so that I could play in different keys without taking so much time. So
That's brilliant.
just tune the lever, and I found even in some tunes, it gives me some chromatic notes.
Mhm.
If I have time to reach with a hand and hit a lever.
Oh, you actually do it in
Yeah.
a performance. That's
So,
amazing.
So occasionally I'll do that. And so it gives a lot more flexibility. And now I kind of wish I had it in the super trebles too, because that limits you to a scale. So you, but sometimes, like you find in music, when you give yourself limitations, you come up with creativity. So you come with creative ways to solve the problem. Okay, how do I play this tune with this many notes without that chromatic note? And so we find all sorts of fun ways around it. You know, grabbing one up here, you know, with this finger, or doing a harmonic on the super treble to get an extra high note. So all different ways that we find to get the notes that we want in a particular song.
It's amazing that I'm looking at especially those strings on the bottom. They're the way they're mounted from the soundboard. So there must be another brace down there that's holding.
Exactly what I was
supporting.
wondering. How
It's like-
extra braced is it to take
I'm like,
all this
wow.
tension?
She's like, they're right in the middle of the soundboard.
Yeah, they do have extra bracing there, and I keep on wanting to run around and peek every time it goes through the security checkpoint, so I can see,
See what's going on.
what the bracing looks like
Right.
in there, because I'm curious myself exactly how he did that.
Well, you should just ask them. I'm sure they'd accommodate
No,
you.
they-
No, I'm kidding.
They don't. I have tried.
They probably look what that thing looks like under an X-ray would probably could look for them might be look scary looking.
And really creative bracing so that it's still resonant and not weighed down so much that you know the top
Right,
can't
that-
move. So Durand really has
Right.
his work cut out for him.
Yeah, it sounds quite lovely.
Yeah, it really
It's
does.
very resonant.
Yeah.
Now, a nylon string harp guitar, is that common?
Most harp guitars are steel string,
Yeah. That's what-
and this one, my first harp guitar, in fact, was a model of the ones that were made between 1890 and 1910, or maybe up to 1920, in Chicago by the Larson brothers. So that was the golden age of the harp guitar, that very short period of time.
Was Gibson copying them, the Larson brothers? So
Gibson made a different model, so theirs does not have the resonating chamber that you clearly can see on the radio here. So, so it has an extra beautiful arc. If you go to my website, murielanderson.com, you could see this instrument.
The bout, yeah.
So those were steel string, and it was Mike Doolin who came up to me and said, I can make you a travel harp guitar, because I was never home to play it, and it was too big to travel with. So this was the main prerequisite of this instrument, was to fit in the overhead bin of an airplane. And so that's
circular,
That's
all
that's
parameter
right.
right
That's
there.
right. So that's why it's tuned up a step. But then I found, it actually has a beautiful resonance. It's more lute-like up here, and I had to make it with nylon instead of the steel strings, just so it wouldn't wear away my fingernails. So when I'm playing the flamenco and the classical, again, that gave it a different sound, which I really liked. And so. And then this is the second guitar I had built. With the second one, I asked him to add the super trebles, like John Doan has. He's a wonderful harp guitarist I recorded with, and he was the inspiration to get the super trebles.
So those I would originally call them. I thought they were like drone strings. They're called super trebles.
Yes.
Because it's interesting, the sound of that guitar. The body's it's a good size for a classical, but your lower strings are just. They resonate. It's amazing for that size of a body. I mean, we're hearing it acoustically here, and it's deep.
Well, it's electrified. There's 3 pickups in it, one for each set of strings, and through a sound system in a big theater, it just fills the room. It's amazing.
But acoustically by itself, it sounds. I mean, now, when you record with this, do you use the pickups and the mics together, or do you record it acoustically?
I recorded only with the microphones acoustically.
Ah,
But you've got 3 discrete piezo systems in there.
Yes.
for live.
Yeah.
That's amazing. No, it sounds good. I mean, all of the recordings are just beautiful in that.
Thank you.
Well, the
So-
thing is, acoustically, it sounds, as we can hear in here, it sounds balanced. It's really all of the voices speak out without anyone being compromised. I'm curious, why F sharp? What scalar was there?
Well, the harp guitar I had made before this was tuned up to a G, so it was
Wow.
tuned up a minor third, just to make it smaller. And then,
Okay, so that
with
was-
this one, I thought, well, I'll give it just a little more resonance, and I found that just that one fret longer is just the right amount for me.
But that also has to be taken in consideration when you're looking at the sympathetic strings in terms of making sure the lengths are all right and everything to correspond to the area of an F sharp, right? Much like you would have to do for a G or an E or anything. You have to take into consideration the length of those strings, the length of those strings.
Well, we're lucky that right now we are living in the heyday of guitar building, and we have some just amazingly talented and brilliant guitar builders in America in particular. Just some great builders here.
Now, is that a spruce top? Is that
Yes.
And then the back and sides are.
Our Indian rosewood.
The back sides, top, bottom, side. There's a lot of rows.
Can you
Middle section.
Can you lift it up and show it to the people so they can see this back? It's a beautiful instrument. I mean, this thing. Look at that wood. That's matched rosewood.
That's the one going on Facebook Live. So you can see that. So that's
Yeah,
great.
we're on Facebook
so,
Live.
So people
So people
can
can
see
see
it.
it.
Yes,
People can see
yes.
it. Okay. Great.
This is definitely something that'll, if somebody's like just waking up and they're turning to like, whoa,
What the hell is she playing? Yeah.
No, it's interesting too, and just the way the layout of the bridge, how that, because the angle and what's going on there is there. That's key to besides the intonation, but I'm sure that has something to affect the overall sound where they're placed in the way the bridge. But look at the drone string is angled out towards, and it's toward the back of the resonant part of the chamber, and then the super trebles, as you said. So
Well, I'll give you a little secret that in, I think, just a couple of weeks, Lucas Brunner is releasing an attachable set of super trebles. So you can turn any guitar into a harp guitar with
Oh,
the
wow.
trebles, or any regular harp guitar into a harp guitar with the super trebles. And so it's putting this kind of an instrument within the realm of normal people.
Oh,
I think.
well, that's an interesting
How
sound.
he attaches those
Yes,
to a
so-
regular guitar.
So it'll attach with it's kind of like a bungee cord that hugs the guitar, so it just hugs your instrument like this, and it works perfectly, and it comes with its own pickup. So if you're
Oh,
playing it
wow.
on stage, you got a separate pickup for the super trebles.
What a great idea.
I just want to see how they can mount it on there, and you can take it off, or
Yep.
is it a permanent
No,
install?
no, it's
I want to see that because I don't know how you're going to do the bridge and the pin
yeah.
area.
So it's just this is a a discrete piece, and just set it on the bout.
Oh, that's interesting. That is really interesting. You have this set up to a certain tuning. What were you planning on playing at this to play?
Well, I could do either the bluegrass medley, but you're going to do that from a
Well, why
recording?
don't you do the? I was going to play the bluegrass, but
Oh,
you
you
could go.
could-
You could go ahead and do it. I mean, I think it's kind of cool. It's really cool what she does on it. So
Well, the other one I could do, since we're talking about the super trebles, I could play Why Worry.
okay.
And that's one that I played on Lucas Brunner's a foldable harp guitar. There's actually a harp guitar that folds up into a backpack. And that's also made
Wow.
by Lucas Brunner in Switzerland. And so this one got a lot of views when I played it.
I keep wondering if the headphone wire is going to get in the way, or are you
I'm
good?
going to take the headphones off.
Yeah, she can take it
Right.
off.
All right.
And let's pull.
Yeah, pull that. a
I
little
want
more
to
the
bring this
12th
back
fret.
so you can hear it a little more.
Yep, yep, good. Oh, here.
There it is. Yeah, that's what I want.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Give it a little more room to breathe.
That works.
This thing sounds great. Okay, go ahead. Excellent. Now, what's interesting, if you can, and I think you can see it on the Facebook Live, when she's playing, when she's hitting the main guitar part, in terms of your hands, just you can see the classical influence, the voice leading, and what's going on, what she's doing, how she's building it, though rhythmically very folk. I like that because you're doing some really hip little things, counterpoint with the with the plucking these fingers with the thumb. You're doing some really cool stuff, and then obviously the super trebles, and that's just great. How did she do that? I thought you were hitting harmonics.
And it's also neat to be in a room full of people where everybody's like, wow, I need to go home and rehearse. Like right now, I need to go and leave. Just throwing that out there.
Well,
But
I had no idea I was doing that.
It's the force you were it's the Muriel effect, as I was thinking of.
But I think
I
it's
need to go home and practice.
but it's interesting because it shows that melding of different styles, and you can see it in your playing, in your technique, besides in the music. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, your technique is very classical, especially your fingerings and how you're working on that. But at the same time, musically, it's a very hip type of, the rhythm is very contemporary.
Well, I think the reason that my technique is very classical is because my hands are small, and it's the only way that works.
Mhm.
So I just do with my hands what works. If I didn't use that angle, and that I would get all buzzes,
Mhm.
or I wouldn't be able to push down as hard. I don't have a crushing grip. I just know how to position the hands, and so I think that's purely the reason, because it works.
Now, let me ask you too: is when you play in concert, do you play what position? Do you use like a classical stool, or do you?
No, I use this neck up, so it's just a piece of leather and a suction cup, and it lifts the guitar up. And the reason for this is it's great for my back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
I used to sit folk style with the guitar on my right leg like this,
Yeah.
and then so my shoulders were all, my upper back was hurting, and then when I sat classical style with the guitar on the left leg and a footstool, then my hips and my lower back were hurting.
Yeah.
And I got the neck up, and it's just like neckup.com, and it props the guitar up so you can sit just straight.
So you sit when you play. You don't
Yeah.
play that standing.
Yeah, I generally sit, yeah.
Because it's almost like the way it's set up. It's angled almost like a traditional classical. It's a little. It's kind of in the middle.
Yeah,
you know.
it gives me flexibility. I can move around with it, and I'm really glad I discovered that. It's really helped me.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
and your hands look like, especially the hand that's the fingering hand is relaxed. It looks really relaxed, not because it's easy to get really twisted.
Mhm.
I am curious, have you had ever carpal tunnel, any of the other
Well,
problems? in the past?
when I was in my late 20s, I had tendonitis. I did something stupid, and just in addition to overplaying. And so I went to a myotherapist in Chicago, where I was living. Sharon Sauer was a great myotherapist there. And she did acupressure massage that alleviated it. And so now I have to remember to do stretching exercises, And so I've been, once you get it once, it tends to want to recur the same place again, as
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
probably know. So I've been pretty lucky to keep it at bay for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, your technique just is very, it seems, you make it seem very effortless. There's not a lot of strain, but it also seems very effortless on your part. So it's very smooth, which is awesome.
Well, I think it's important for longevity,
Yeah,
to be able to
Yeah.
keep playing.
her there's no. It's relaxed. Her
Absolutely.
hands are relaxed, which is key.
Yeah, I hope someone can see that on the Facebook. It was just executed very
Well,
easily.
if the hand's not relaxed, the music is not going to come out relaxed
Yeah.
sounding. So it's tied together. The instrument is amazing in that it can pick up your emotions. The guitar is an amazing instrument in that. So if I'm feeling relaxed, the music is going to come out sounding relaxed. If I'm starting to feel tense, here I'm just feeling relaxed now. Now I'm starting to feel tense, and now I'm feeling relaxed again. And I mean, didn't you start to feel tense yourself? Just at that moment where I was feeling tense, the
Mhm, mhm.
instrument just picks up how you feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Do you want to go ahead and play some of the bluegrass?
Well, if you have it queued up, there's something kind of fun about the recording. This is from Nightlight Daylight.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had said. Now I edited. I pulled 2 clips because it's
Sure.
a long. It's a long thing. Let me play it, and hopefully I have what you wanted to point out. Let's see what. Let's take a listen.
Oh,
to
okay, it's really fun if you do.
it. But what I have here, you can hear. It's really. I love what you're doing on this. Here we
Thank
go. We're sharing headphones now. That's some great bluegrass playing anyway. Besides the fact that you're doing on a totally instrument that you would not think that would be bluegrass at all.
I played it on a flamenco guitar.
Yeah. But it was interesting in that second section that you had. You're doing something, and I don't know if you're familiar with from banjo. It's called flailing.
Frailing.
Frailing.
Yes.
And you're actually doing that.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
You were doing claw hammer because I couldn't really hear it. It was like, wow, she's doing that thing. So I didn't know if you had the training for that, or you're just good at imitating the sound based on the technique you have.
I took a lesson from Mike Miles at the Old Town School of Folk Music, and then as I was trying to figure out, well, can I do that frailing technique on the guitar? And
right.
so I then transposed that and with some slight variations to make it work on the guitar. So
how hard was that to adapt that? Because I noticed,
it was-
most banjo
took a little
players, you're playing like this, classical, right? And then they usually play their hands twisted a little bit, it's over usually over the bridge. But
yeah, so I'm actually playing with the back of my fingernails. So a real claw hammer would you play with you can lead with the index or the middle. I'll lead with the middle. So it's a hard hit and then a soft hit with the back of the fingernails, and you kind of lean against the next string, and then the thumb comes up to hit the high string on the banjo, which is the low string on the guitar. That's why that doesn't work, right? So instead of doing that, I hook my ring finger underneath on the first string on the way up. So it doesn't have, it's not a separate motion, it's a hook on the way up. So the rhythm, it's with the wrist, it's a downward motion, kind of like a jazz drummer.
yeah.
Doing this kind of wrist motion as opposed to the back and forth like guitar players generally do. So it took a little work to get the wrist to go up.
Well, it's
and
interesting
down
with that
instead of
other
back and forth.
with
Yeah.
that other finger
Get
because
that
you're getting
bounce.
that high like on a 5-string banjo, she's getting that high drone string, which is used a lot. That's great. I mean, it's inventive.
Well, another funny thing about that recording on the Nightlight Daylight CD is my favorite drummer is Danny Gottlieb from Pat Metheny Group, and he moved to Nashville, and I knew him from before that, and so I called him. I said, "Do you want to do a recording session, your first session in Nashville?" And I said, "I want you to play only body parts, okay? So no drum, you can play your cheeks, you can play your head, and you and your wife, his wife is a drummer and percussionist also. You can both do the percussion part. You can play. So they were, doing the hitting their cheeks and knees and hitting each other in the studio, and it was just.
They must
We
have
were
loved it.
just
Oh.
laughing. I tell you, we had so much fun.
And they probably
doing
love the
that.
challenge.
Yeah,
That
right.
was so cool.
So his
Do
first
something
session in Nashville.
different and creative like that.
Yeah.
And it's a cool sound. I mean,
Yeah,
it's an interesting
that's
sound.
what that little percussive thing was.
Yeah, it sounds almost like claps, but it's not. It's
Yeah.
softer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hitting their
Yeah.
cheeks and knees.
That's the name of the next album.
Yeah,
And I was going to say, Lindsey Buckingham, that's what he's got, the banjo technique too. And that's
Oh.
why he's got that different picking technique that everybody always goes, well, how's he getting that? Because he comes from doing that banjo technique.
Mhm.
I don't really think he does the flailing like you do, but just the way he does the picking.
And it's made a tremendous difference in his
It-
sound. It's
it's-
not the
it's-
conventional approach.
Yeah, it's a different approach.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Jack Pearson is a wonderful frailing banjo player too. You might know him
The Allman?
from the Allman Brothers. Yeah.
Real, oh, he's a monstrous guitar. So he does that as well.
Oh yeah, great,
Wow.
great frailing banjo player.
That's a great technique. Now, you were going to ask a question about. What?
The new project. I was gonna
Let's
see what
talk
was going
about
on with So before we came, we started looking at some of the what you were doing. We're familiar with some people that have married visuals to the music, and that's basically what you're doing. And we started looking. I was like, "But these images are beautiful." And as a preface to people who don't know, Muriel's been on the cutting edge of a lot of things, not the least of which is being an independent artist. We like to pride ourselves in Incendio and doing some things, but Muriel's been on the forefront of this for years, putting together different guitar nights, putting together doing the project with Tierra Negra, which involves Spanish guitars. So she's really kind of covered the waterfront. And then like this next thing she does, we begin to look at her, and always great playing, but then there's visuals, and Brian happens to be here. So
Yes.
you could tell us a little bit about how this collaboration started, and you're going to have tour dates here and in Phoenix, in Arizona, in the next
Yes.
couple of days. But yeah, how did this, amongst your many wonderful projects, how did this one start?
Well, when I recorded the Nightlight Daylight CD, the one we just played on, that was a 2-year project. And whatever every song needed, that's what it got. And if it needed some strings, I hired the Nashville Symphony strings. And if it needed a little kind of Earl Klug sound or Stanley Jordan sound, I hired Earl and Stanley, and I decided that there was going to be one album in my life that had no maximum budget
Mm-hmm.
and no time limit. And whenever everything was perfect,
You're
that's
going to
when
make
it'd be
us
done.
cry.
I know. Don't you want to do that one time? One
yes.
time. So that was my one time. And it turned out to be a double album, one album of music to wake up to, one album of music to go to sleep to. And then I was looking for an artist to do a great album cover for this. And so Phil Keggy sent me an image of a farmer and his wife catching lightning in a field. And I saw that. I said, that is everything that my music is. And whoever that artist is, that's why I want to do my album cover. So that was Brian Allen. And so we found out that the reason that his art was saying the same thing as my music is that we were soulmates. And so in the process of doing that album, we fell in love. And
Awesome.
then, so I'll show you the album. It's right here.
That's fantastic. That's so cool.
I have it here. Do I have it? Oh, maybe I don't. It's the front. I wanted to show you because it's the one with the front cover that lights up when you push the moon. It's the,
yeah, that you mentioned,
yeah.
right?
It has the
on the website, right?
right. And so we figured now that we want to be together, how do we tour that Brian doesn't just
Hang out in the hotel room.
hang out in a hotel room, carry my guitar case, so that he can be an artist too, because he's a great artist, great visual artist.
Clearly.
So, so that's how we came up with the audio-visual show. So Brian's visuals that are saying what my music is saying right behind me, and we have it highly choreographed so that, when I hit a certain section, then the images change. And
Is he selecting the images live? Is in other words? We need a
give
microphone.
him-
Why
There's
don't-
some
we need a
back and
microphone
forth.
on that guy.
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm
You
happy
can
to hold the
speak
guitar.
into
I'm happy to
this.
hold the guitar too, if that's. I don't want him to feel. However.
He found a way to get that guitar.
So, when she approached
Lean in
you,
a little bit so we
Yeah.
get you.
what was your approach when you did? Did you collaborate together, or she just said, "This is what I'm thinking.
Well-
This is your vision of what Muriel is. Which your interpretation of what Muriel's asking for."
Well, they all start with the song, pretty much. I get the soundtrack and start with that, and then bring in, the various pieces, try to line them up with the breaks and the music, etc.
And then they always change.
And after I finish it, then she changes it. Then she art directs it, and I start over.
So when you do it live, are you selecting the next thing? Because in our thought, it would be like you have it, and maybe she needs a little click track and go. But there's no way to do that if you're
No
going to
click
just
track.
do it straight live.
We have one long video file with the songs prearranged. And if anyone out there is listening and knows of a terrific little AV software where I can just, on the fly, pick this one or that one, cue it up, play it, and adjust the speed a little bit, that would be brilliant.
You know
Let
what?
us
Not
email-
asking for a lot.
That's what I want.
It is so funny because we run into this from time to time when you want to innovate, when you want to, if you're on the cutting edge of something and you have a set of needs, you end up finding that what you really want is not really out there. So this is a great medium by which to put it out there and go and have some software developers, a guitar player,
it's a
who's listening to
encouraging
the
medium.
show
Yeah.
and go, hey, that sounds like a really cool idea. And it's not
It's
that
not-
difficult, just nobody has thought to do that yet.
So when you've got a concert, and
Mhm.
for each song, you've already got the pictures laid out. So if you already know which, you're not able to put them, say, in a file like Final Cut, and then slow it down a little bit if she's not.
Well, you
quite
have to render it.
going.
That's the problem. You can't do it real time. What he wants to
you
do,
You can run it from Final Cut. It's a little more dangerous, but you can't just you can't seamlessly slow it down or speed it up like
Right.
the
Yeah.
rheostat. You can hit a button maybe in VLC and it jumps a little faster, or it jumps a bit slower. But I want a little rheostat kind of a thing.
VLC, you've already tried this. You've
yeah.
already gone to, okay.
right?
All right, no little orange cone for you. Yes.
He
Okay.
basically wants to improvise
Well,
visually.
the thing
Yeah.
is, she plays a track once, I make the song, the video, then her job is to play it exactly like that every time in concert, which is hard. There's different energy in the room each time, and
Yeah.
She's
I
a
decide
little-
I want to do something different
she's
one
a
day.
little faster,
Yeah.
she's a little slower. We have hand signals. She adds a note, and
I know we've got about 8 minutes, and you want to mention some of your, the upcoming shows and so forth. But I have to ask, how long between the time you guys met did you realize there was something kind of special? A question that rarely gets asked on a guitar
Yeah.
on a guitar show. How long did it take for you guys to kind of know something was interesting was afoot?
Well, when we first decided to work together, I said, why don't we work together via Skype? And so we go on Skype, and Brian's flirting a little bit.
And we're off.
And so, then maybe his version of the story is a little different. But, yeah, he's nodding. And I thought, gee, this guy is really, cute, and just he's, really cool and artistic, and I found myself falling for him, and I actually wrote a song called Perfect 10 that ended up on the album, ended up being added to the album. And then as we were finishing up the project, and I didn't know if I was going to see him again, I wrote another song called Dandelions about him leaving and not knowing if I was going to see him again. So, and both of those ended up on the album. They ended up both being added to Nightlight Daylight.
Oh, that's great.
So we knew before we even met each other face to face.
And what was it?
So, how did it wind up that you obviously did see each other again? Who asked who that this project is coming to an end?
Brian, can you answer that?
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, I don't. It was sort of simultaneous. That's why I asked Brian to ask, and we both kind of came together on that. We decided instead of working remotely, he would come to Nashville, and we would photograph the front and back covers together.
Coming to Nashville from where?
From Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
whereabouts in
I
Arizona?
was in Tucson for a while.
Okay, right on.
In fact, we're going back there this coming week and performing both in the Cottonwood area
That's what I read. Cottonwood. Where else?
and
Yeah, give us some of the
let's see.
dates.
Flagstaff.
Flagstaff, yes. And it's on MurielAnderson.com. And then tomorrow we'll be in California still. We'll be in Desert Hot Springs. And then going on from there to play Friday night in Borrego Springs at the Performing Arts Center there. And so that's one of my favorite places, Borrego Springs.
Yeah, that's a cool place.
My aunt and uncle live there, and
Oh,
yeah,
right
so
on.
we have some roots.
Well, it's MurielAnderson.com. I want to let you play. I think we're going to do the space one, right?
Sure, I'll do
That's
the-
from Eclipse, and just set it up real quick. Of what that's too visual, right? That's
Yes.
Show that while she plays, or do I have
huh?
Do you show it while she plays, or I have it on the...
You can show it if I mean it'll be small. It won't be big screen, but you can show it. Just point it towards the camera, and we can take a look at it.
I
Yeah.
was wondering earlier, when did you, while he's getting that set up, when did you write this piece?
View from Space, I wrote it after I played for the astronauts in Houston, and one of them took my heartstrings recording up to space with her, Susan Helms. And she sent some of the images from the space shuttle. And I saw that, and that was the inspiration for writing View from Space.
Do you remember about when that was?
That was a long time ago.
Okay, that's why. Okay,
Right.
so
Yes.
we did. Liza and I were certainly aware of you before, but we
Yes.
heard you play this at Folk Alliance. It's either in 2010 or 2011. It was stunning. So
Oh,
that was
thank
like
you.
the first time we were like in the room going, "Oh my gosh, she's doing it." It was quite a moment. So
yeah, so
very
this,
cool. To
this
hear
is on the
again.
Eclipse CD, and it's a CD that's also a greeting card. So that's
That's
our
cool.
new things. And so,
Okay.
View from Space.